How's it going, guys? Zigzag here. Welcome back to another Geoguessr video. Today, it's some more expert Geoguessr coaching. I'm just going to be taking you through my whole thought process on each round, and hopefully that helps you to improve by breaking down all the different things that go through my mind before I instantly send guesses on my other videos. So this one's more for my less experienced members, but even if you're an experienced player, you will gain something and hopefully have fun playing on the play along as well. So let's see what we got in the first round here. Also, I'll be playing no car, so hopefully that also makes the guessing a little bit more difficult for me and makes me say what I'm thinking a little bit more clearly. So first one here, we do have a interesting round. Well, first thing I love to do is always look at the color of the road lines. We are using all white road lines here, and so we can pretty much rule out the entire Americas apart from Chile, and actually some other countries in South America do occasionally use all whites as well. And then we can actually say, okay, it's likely to be somewhere in Oceania or Europe, or maybe some countries in Asia, like Indonesia, that occasionally use all whites, or Malaysia that use all whites. But as for this one, we're looking at what appears to be a fairly cold climate. We can see like very green grass here. And so I would say that rules out a lot, and it's not tropical at all as well. I think like once you gain a little bit of experience, you can definitely see, we don't see any palm trees, we don't see any banana plants, we see pines, that's for sure. And so yeah, that's definitely going to influence our guess here. Okay, so let's take a look at some more specifics here. We have some bollards, and they appear to have some yellow reflectors on them. So not too many countries using yellow reflectors like this on plain bollards. You can see here's a better view maybe. So there's no black section on these ones. And so that's definitely a good tip. And then also we're driving right hand side of the road, so we can immediately get rid of Ireland, UK, Malta, Cyprus, even though it's not in the game, but those ones. So I'm kind of leaning you guys towards the fact that this will be somewhere in Europe, and also this red and white warning sign coming up would be yellow in Australia or New Zealand. So there we go, we've made sure it's Europe now, and now the question is where. So as for landscape, it's fairly rolling and agricultural, quite a nice looking place. We are looking at some language here, and we do see it seems to be some kind of a Germanic language. Now, if you didn't know, this VEJ is specific to the country where we're in, or at least very rare in other countries. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen it in another country. So it's a highly useful tip if you can remember the VEJ. And then looking over here, yeah, fairly generic. So rolling landscape, green, nice looking, high quality road and all that bit. And the bollards here are the thing that seals it for me, as well as the bay, and they would both suggest Denmark. So this is Danish language here. Blue street signs, very typical for Denmark as well. Then we have white number plate with these orange reflector bollards, which are a bit thicker, and sometimes they have this orange tab on them at the top. And then also maybe a bit more of an advanced hint is that you often see this like very finely dashed outside line in Denmark. It's quite a Danish thing to do. I think you may see it in other countries, but definitely most common in Denmark, I would say. So I'm going to say we are somewhere in the north here, but yeah, I'm not really sure. Could be anywhere in the country for my money. But let's go there. And ends up being, yeah, on the middle island here, or actually on the eastern island near Copenhagen. So a good score to start us off with. No doubt many of you beat me there because Denmark is a relatively recognizable country. But let's see what we got going on in the second round here. This one has a bunch of country-specific clues right off the bat, but let's run you through the round even if you didn't have those. Okay, so we've got relatively short number plates here, short white number plates as opposed to the long ones that you see in Europe. But clearly we're not in Europe anyway. Looking over this direction, appears that because both of these cars are parked on the right-hand side of the road, we're probably driving right-hand side of the road. And so let's see where the sun is. The sun is definitely more so to our north, although on a round like this, it doesn't appear to be too useful, and that's because it's like nearly midday. And so when it's nearly midday, I wouldn't trust the sun too much here. We have some script over here, but as I said, we'll kind of come to that later on. And so yeah, definitely right-hand drive, double yellow lines. There aren't too many countries in Asia that use double yellow lines. I'm just trying to think. So I think Hong Kong does, although they might be white doubles in Hong Kong. Taiwan uses double yellow lines. We are in Taiwan right now. I'm just trying to think of any other countries in the whole of Asia that use them. I think occasionally you will see it in Thailand and Cambodia, but yeah, overall it's quite rare to see the double yellow lines. You will normally see single yellow lines in a country like Indonesia or Cambodia or South Korea, for example. And so these warning rails, as you probably know if you've watched my channel much, go all the way down to the ground. They're painted yellow and black, and these ones are the Taiwanese ones. You'll very occasionally see ones looking similar in South Korea, but yeah. And so this one's very flat, and so Taiwan has like a flat section along the coast here. This one gives me a bit of a southern vibe. I feel like the south is a little poorer, and this round, although it's not very poor, it just feels a little bit poorer than normal for Taiwan, I would say. And so I'm thinking of going somewhere near Tainan City, where we have a lot of these like canal-looking things around here. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a good guess. We could always use the angle of the road, which is kind of east to west here, so maybe this one here could be possible, but yeah, not really banking on a 5,000 point round here, just more so kind of getting the vibe of the round. And yeah, Taiwan is easy to recognize because you'll almost always see these ones. So let's guess it here. Ends up being a really nice guess, 16 kilometers away. So yeah, these kind of like waterworks are very common in this region of Taiwan, I would say. So yeah, good to know. And that's maybe one for the more advanced players in here. Okay, so all white road lines again. Remember what I said about the road lines. Very useful. The first thing I normally check. So we're driving right-hand side of the road here. We can see cars driving right-hand here, and yeah, on the right-hand here as well. We have some language, but we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so we actually have some French and Mont Blanc here. So Mont Blanc, if you have some geography knowledge, it's on the border here, right? Yeah, so Mont Blanc is between France and Italy. So maybe we are, in this region here. We can just put our marker there. As for the signs, a lot of them are really big and have like a metallic outline. And I feel like you do see that quite a lot in Switzerland. So Switzerland is one of the things going through my mind at the moment. And when you see such a massive amount of mountains that are on all sides, Switzerland is obviously always a possibility. Now, in Switzerland, you always have low camera, and I think the camera is low here, but I cannot actually quite tell because of the no car. So the script is doing its work, so I'm actually not quite sure. But yeah, with the French, presumably we're in France or Switzerland here. So now we can actually use a bit of 5K'ing abilities here. So we look down and try and get the road angle. So we're going more or less east to west here, which is really interesting because this road goes north to south. So we've got to find a section of it that kind of does go east to west. Maybe something like this would fit, although we've got like kind of like a bend in the road like this. Yeah, it seems like we're more on like a freeway. Maybe something like this would fit more so. Although even still, I think we see all these side roads going off, and I'm not really sure if this is really what we're after, to be honest. Oh, that's a tunnel. Okay, so it could fit. It could fit. Although I'm kind of not so optimistic about it, to be honest. But somewhere around here should fit. And then we can also check the French side, where we're not going east to west either. So unless we were over here, that kind of makes sense. But I do think we are, yeah, maybe this kind of region over here makes more sense if we're going east to west. So yeah, that's about all I'd say about this one. These kind of bigger face signs, I do think that is a good Switzerland clue. I'm pretty sure we are in Switzerland here. Although the N205, I guess we can easily find that. Maybe the N205 is actually French. Yeah, it's actually French. Okay, so I feel like these still might be Swiss signs, I still think these might be Swiss signs just in France. But yeah, N205, presumably, if we are right here, then something around here would definitely make sense. Maybe it is this bend here. In fact, I kind of like that. I'm not sure if that's actually a roundabout, but the bend in the road kind of fits, so let's go for that now. And 2.3 kilometers away, it was actually this bend, so kind of similar looking, all things considered. And hopefully you guys spotted the Mont Blanc, but I have no doubt that you did. And so the next one here, okay, nice little round here. All white road lines again, so once again, keep in mind what I said. Chile, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, some parts of Asia and Africa, but that's what we're working with right here. And looking around, we have a bit of writing on the road, which will be useful later on. Here we're using these yellow diamonds, which I was telling you about you don't have in Europe. The yellow diamonds would be replaced with white and red triangles, which have the warning signs in them. We also have bollards here with a bit of red on them. They're a little far away. Okay, here's another one, the red bollards. Obviously, bollards are just an instant win if you know them, but if you don't know them, I'll try and help you remember. And so, this one is either going to be Australia or New Zealand. I don't know which country it is, but I'm going to try and help you guys get it. So obviously if you know your bollards difference, then you can use that. But here we have a signpost which is painted white and is thick. And that one is is not going to be ever in Australia, or at least exceptionally rarely, and it's all over New Zealand. So we are going to be in New Zealand this time, even though the round, plausibly could have been Australian. So here is a concrete pole that's kind of like hollow through the center of it. And these kind of style ones, you obviously see like similar ones in many countries such as Brazil, but this particular style seems to be common in Chile and New Zealand, and these are two countries that can look quite similar. In New Zealand though, you'll almost always have like a metal band around it, and I'm pretty sure that's to prevent possums from running up, but it's also to keep the wires in as well, and I'm pretty sure that is most common on New Zealand ones. And concrete poles are more common on the North Island, where about 80% of the poles are concrete, whereas on the South Island it's only about 20%, I think. So yeah, definitely feeling North Island here. It's very green, and it's kind of rolling hill landscape, so kind of feeling maybe over this direction here, or maybe just near the center of the island could certainly make sense. We even have the name here, so Wimbledon is interesting. I feel like I have heard of that. I mean, it's not Wellington. I'm not really sure where Wimbledon is, but I'm sure within a little extra time we can find that. Regardless, this one is a pretty clean New Zealand. So the bollards in New Zealand are interesting because they don't have just like plain red reflectors. They have like a white reflector on a red band, and we have red bands on all the bollards here. So I think that's about it to say here. Yeah, New Zealand's pretty recognizable as soon as you know the bollards and the poles. But even still, I think a lot of you guys with that much Geoguessr experience could easily have gotten this one. And so let's send it in and hope for the best here. Ends up being over here. We're in Herbertville. Interesting. So Wimbledon doesn't appear to have helped much, but a good score. So we're actually sitting on a rather nice one here on 19,000. So if we get a really nice score here, we can still pull a 24,000. And so let's check it out. So we have some autumn coverage here. First thing to mention, autumn coverage common in some countries, very uncommon in others. But you can kind of see like the orange leaves on the trees, kind of deciduous trees. So, yeah, definitely going to be playing part of our decision making here. So road lines, once again, we have a yellow center line here, single and unbroken, and we have white outer lines. So that definitely precludes certain countries and makes certain countries more likely, like the ones I mentioned that have this before. We also have this one, which does not go all the way to the ground, which is similar to the Taiwanese one, but because it's not all the way to the ground, we know it's not Taiwan. What else can we say here? We have a bollard here, and this is just a metal bollard with a orange reflector, and it'll be white on the other side here. And those ones are very common in Japan, but also in South Korea, and maybe occasionally in Taiwan as well. Okay, so the Asian style one. And we have a lot of concrete, thin-ish poles here, and some like very Asian-looking buildings here. A lot of things painted blue, which is very common in Japan and Korea as well. What else is there to say here? The autumn coverage is what's going to make me lean massively towards Korea here. Korea almost always uses the single yellow line as well, and that is kind of more rare in Japan, although you do see it. And also, we're not in low camera. The camera is definitely like a normal height here, and so that would also help our decision making as well. So Korea is very hilly, and that will also point us towards Korea as well. And then, yeah, what more is there to say? I'm not really sure where to go here. I'm kind of just thinking like a northern hedge here to hope we can get that 24k. Yeah, it's definitely just a normal looking Korean round here. Kind of like these fields in between the mountains, like this field here is very typical as well. And so I'm feeling pretty good about this one. Let's see if we're going to get close here. We end up pretty close, just missing out on the 24,000. So 23,727 here is really, really quite a nice score here. And I say let us head into the second seed. So hopefully do comment what you got here. I think it was a very achievable seed. In fact, all 5 countries relatively simple, especially when we had the French clue there. So you guys got to let me know how you did. And let's head into the second and final seed for today's video. Okay, so the first round here, we are using all white road lines again. So remember, that is a very important clue. You must remember, all white road lines. It's the first thing you got to look at if you're a new player. Next thing, we have a green sign here, and we are speaking a certain kind of language, which is very recognizable, but I'm going to assume that you don't know what it is. Okay, so looking around here, the road quality is pretty good here. It's definitely, like, these houses definitely give you kind of like an Eastern European vibe. I think that's quite a reasonable thing to say here. And so seeing a good road quality can help you somewhat decide between countries, although of course it is a rather unreliable clue. And we have a few A-frame poles here. A-frame poles is when they just put two together and they supporting each other like that. And those are certainly more common in some countries than others. I would say, like, particularly when you see a lot of A-frames, Baltics, Poland, occasionally sometimes in the post-Soviet countries such as Russia and Ukraine and all that, you do see A-frames as well. But yeah, definitely Poland and the Baltics are the main ones where you see a lot of the time. You can see another one in the distance here. And so we got bollards again. These ones are kind of thick and they have a red band all the way around. So you can see that here and here and here. And it's pretty hard to miss this one. And sometimes then you have a white reflector on the red band on the left-hand side of the road, I guess. Yeah. And what more is there to say here? Not too much. The poles are made of wood. Often in this country you'll see concrete poles, but only wooden poles on this occasion, which is interesting. Okay, so it's hilly as well. That's the last thing I'll mention here. And so this one is Poland. These are Polish bollards, and this is a typical Polish town sign. So Polish town signs are green with white text, and it's a particular font, which hopefully if you pay attention to it a few times, you'll start to see there is a different font to other countries. So yeah, feeling pretty good about that. Good road quality is pretty typical for Poland. It's one of the wealthier Eastern European countries for sure, and they just tend to have nicer roads than, for example, neighboring Ukraine, where the roads are often very shoddy. And yeah, what more is there to say? They often have like double white lines in Poland. You can see that over there, kind of in the distance. But yeah, the dashes are also typical. But if you see double white lines, you may want to consider Poland because it is quite likely to be Poland when you see that in Europe. Okay, so I'm thinking southern here because it's more hilly, but you can get hills all over Poland anyway, so I'm going to go there. And ends up being 155 kilometers away, right on the border with Ukraine. And so yeah, I don't think you'd see such a good quality road in many parts of Ukraine. Of course you can. As I said, not the most consistent clue, but 4.6k there is certainly solid, and hopefully some of you guys even found the towns, which I couldn't be bothered going to look for. Anyway, next round here, we do have some bollards once again. So it's really been bollards o'clock here. Know your bollards, guys. Know your bollards. It's very useful if you can pick them. But also we have a bunch of eucalyptus trees everywhere here. And of course, this is very typical of one particular country. I'll let you guys think about that for a second while I run through the rest of the round, but very typical of one particular country. Okay, so we have some white road lines in the center here. Single white unbroken with the white dashes, and then it moves into double whites, which is also quite typical for this country. It is quite dry. One must admit, quite dry here. And so the bollards have the grey reflector on one side of the road and the red one on the other. And yeah, so we're kind of using like yeah, I don't really know what else to say there. There's not too much to say here. We're kind of missing any other context clues here. We don't see any poles, any signs. We're just working on the bollards and the landscape here. And I think most of you guys would be able to pick that this is an Australian round. And yeah, it is. It is. So many eucalyptus trees. You will see often eucalyptus forests in other countries, South American countries, even sometimes in like Portugal and Spain. But this one is just so many that you've got to think, and they look like they've organically grown. You've got to think that Australia is easily most likely here. And so I'm thinking maybe like Sydney, like outside of Sydney, inside the Blue Mountains kind of area. But this one could be anywhere up to like Brisbane area as well. And I could even see it being, you know, around Melbourne or Adelaide as well. All things are possible here. I think I like best somewhere around the Blue Mountains because you do get quite like thick forests in that kind of area. And it also feels a little hilly. But yeah, I could also see easily around Brisbane here as well. In fact, I may change my mind to go there. It does kind of remind me of both quite a lot. So yeah, it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the forests when there really are so few other context clues. But I'd say somewhere near Brisbane or somewhere near Sydney here. Ends up being right between really. So we're near Coffs Harbour there. And that was the Guy Fawkes River National Park right near there. So yeah, 3.9k is definitely solid for Australia. But to get the right state is what you really want there. Oh, another interesting round here. This one's a very interesting round. Okay, so let's run through this one. I think I can get a very good score here, but I think some of you guys may struggle with this one, so let's check it out. So we've got ocean over here, interestingly, to our east. We've got some blue text on the number plate here, which is really interesting. We're in Trekker, because this street is probably too tight for a car. Or I know where we are, so I'm pretty sure this would be Trekker, even though I can't see it. And we've got thin streets here. We've got an ambulance, which is interesting. So, like a very white, sandy soil. And we got a Telstra phone box here. This is an Australian style of phone box. So if you ever see this logo, that's the main telecommunications provider in Australia. But looking around here, we also see land to our east. So where could we be? So we've got land to our east. We're either in a bay or on an island. And I will tell you guys, this one is actually on Rottnest Island, which is an island with a fascinating history in Australia. So there we go. We are looking presumably over here. Over to our east, we have like a small jetty here. So I think we can use that to maybe 5k here. Although, okay, here's the small jetty. So I think we might be on like Cusack Street or something like that. Yeah, this would make sense. This would make sense, honestly. Although maybe this one makes more sense. Looking at the road angles, yeah, I think we found the actual one here, because that road kind of looks like it lines up, and this one kind of makes the right little angle like that. Can you see this little acute angle here? Is kind of this kind of angle here that we see on the screen. So yeah, that is what the Rottnest Island coverage looks like. You can often see on this island a lighthouse. Where is the lighthouse actually? There's a big lighthouse up on a hill, which I guess is this one here. Yeah, so a lot of time you'll be like somewhere else on the island and you'll be able to see that one in the open fields, but we're right in the middle of town here, and what's crazy is that we've actually just found the location that easily. So I think this is a really, really cool little round, and I don't blame you if you couldn't work this out, but yeah, because there's not really any eucalyptus trees here either. Kind of just some pine needle kind of like a looking tree, spindly trees. But yeah, an interesting round, and we're gonna get 5k here. So there you go, 7 meters away. Hopefully some of you guys worked that out. Definitely a difficult round without moving if you don't know what that looks like, but of course we can see Perth in the background, and it's only Trek on Rottnest Island, and yeah, not many cars either. Okay, so next one. We are looking at some all white road lines again. Once again, baby, you already know we have not had many yellows so far, just the Korea so far actually. We have these bollards with a black top on them. We have some language over here, which we'll come back to later. We have hills, big ones. We have blue strips on the plate, so thinking Europe immediately when you see that. And we are looking at some of these European-style warning signs as well. Okay, so we have some like Slavic-looking language here, which is interesting. And if we turn back at this sign, it's also kind of hard to tell. It might be Slavic as well. I think it is. And so this one is one of those classic toss-ups between Slovenia and Austria for me. They're both very hilly countries. Both use these similar bollards with the red reflectors and the black tops. They also both grow a lot of corn. We can see corn here. Corn very common, I would say, in Romania, Serbia, Slovenia, Austria. Where else do they grow a lot of corn? Maybe sometimes in Ukraine as well. So I think those 5 countries, Italy, and maybe sometimes France as well. So they're the countries that mainly grow corn, I would say. And so definitely keep an eye out for that. If you see corn around in Europe, likely to be one of those countries, and hopefully you can use some other context clues to maybe pick one of them. Although, of course, it can be grown in any country, naturally. All the time in Austria on these black bollards, you'd have a little like hat at the top or a little side piece. But here we just have the plain black hats. So that's more common in Slovenia. And I think the main thing that's mainly making me think Slovenia here is this GE suffix, which I don't think you'd really see in much in German. I mean, actually, I can think of words that you would see that in, but you know, Radlija feels more Eastern European, more Slavic. And so that's about it. It's just the reflectors and the language here for us. Also on Austrian number plates, you can often see a bit of red peeking through, which we don't see here, but obviously these are kind of far away as well. But yeah, I would not be surprised if we were kind of near the border here. So I'm going to go around Maribor here, which is, you know, fairly hilly, and also probably more likely to grow some corn out this side of the country as well. So let's see how correct I am. 31 kilometers away, yeah, right on the border, as I kind of suspected. And yeah, that's where you'll probably see more corn being grown. And so 4.9k is another nice result. So we are once again on track for a high score here. Unfortunately, that Australia round prevented us from having anything insane, but you know, still nice. And so this one we have a black back of the sign here. That's going to be the biggest clue. We also see that these cliffs are kind of like, or these side, you know, escarpments. Or I don't know if that's the right word, but these red cliffs are kind of, you know, red. So some iron in the soil, or however that comes about. We also have like a curb on the side of this like rural road, which is fairly typical of this country actually. So kind of like a more meta or kind of like cheeky hint, but quite often the case. And so we're also using the American style of warning signs rather than the European style. And we have double yellow lines. Always remember your lines, guys. Double yellow lines. Okay, so combining all these factors, also so hilly, quite nice hills, very green, with a bit of trees, but not heavily forested. So this one is going to be Brazil. It's going to be southern as well, I would say. The hills, the double yellow lines, and particularly the black back of the sign. The black back of the sign is a big one here. Brazilian black back of the signs. There's no other country in South America that does it quite as much. Argentina you will occasionally see. I think maybe Peru as well, and maybe some other countries. But Brazil almost always does it, and that's why it's known as the Brazilian black back of the sign. Also, red-tiled roofs are quite common in Brazil because of their Portuguese heritage, which is something you always see in Portugal as well. And here's another example of that curb on the side of the road. So high rainfall, tall grass. We don't see any Brazilian poles here, which you'd normally see in Brazil, obviously, but yeah, we don't see any of those on this occasion. But with these like grass-covered rolling hills, I would say somewhere around Sao Paulo is always a safe shout, because that's what you get a lot of between Rio and Porto Alegre, and so that's what I'm gonna go for actually. And so it ends up being, yeah, more so near Belo Horizonte. Maybe if I thought about that a little longer, could have got a better score there. I think that was definitely an achievable one. Regardless, we end up with 21,400 here, which is a respectable score for the second seed. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for sticking around all the way to the end. And let me know if you want to see more of these. These ones are always fun to film, and I like the teaching element of it. So yeah, hopefully you guys did well in the seeds. I think my effort was pretty decent here, despite some hard rounds. And yeah, guys, I'll see you guys in a video very soon. Like and subscribe, and till then, goodbye.